Who has demos? I don't think I do. I don't think I do. We'll see. Okay, no demos. Topics. We'll see also status. Where is Git extensions? Matthias, where have you been? It's unacceptable. No PR in a month. So this one, I don't think there is any news. Should we make a petition for Benedect to ship it? Should we block every Lombic dev from accessing Orchard until 1.10.3 is shipped? Might be a way to pressure them. They are blocking the release, so let's all go on strike, quit until it's unblocked. That works. Orchard core. Nothing new on. I didn't see anything. Oh, I didn't check correctly actually. I don't think there was anything new on Orchard 1. No PR. No issues. I think there is a new issue on UPR right now that will be triaged on Thursday. This one, what do we have? So let's filter on dev right now. So what do we have? Seven days ago, so we merged Antoine's PR, which was adding the crowding badge, then body part migration. There was an issue and now it's fixed. And the issue was that if the thing had a display text, it will not do the migration, which is wrong. It has nothing to do with that bad copy paste on my side. This is done. Updating thread with some bug fixes and improvement in perf. Then replace localization culture delimiter. So based on some feedback that apparently crowding uses a dash, we now support the dash instead of a dot in our app localization file. Remove compiler directives. This is just that instead of using the if debug, it's using the current hosting environment, which is better. Okay. Adding configuration support. What is that? So why is it assigning it to me? Because it's Jean Thierry who did it. That's weird. We even recreated the PR. So because I created the PR first, but he worked mostly, so I asked him to recreate the PR, so he would get the GitHub points for that, and I see it's assigned to me. He merged it and he created a PR. I don't get it. So this is the configuration with what, okay, 4 days ago, merged 4 days ago, which means, Jasmin, your version doesn't have these changes. So these changes are super important because they add support for custom configuration. It also removes YAML usage. So we used to have YAML files for site settings. Now it's JSON documents, and it's the format of appsettings.json. So standard ASP.NET, well, standard .NET Core settings files. There's also a bunch of examples here in the default app settings. Actually, there is none the same as before. So the important thing to know is that everything which is specific to Orchard Core modules have to be in the Orchard Core section, and then it's free to use any subsection that you want. So you could use a subsection based on each module or not, up to you, and then decide what you want to put in there for based on each module. Each module can define their own option. So we have files at the top level, and then files for specific tenancy if we need it. It also supports environment variables and so on. There is no documentation, I think, for now for it, but that will come. What is commented already works, so if you want to see some examples. With this change, I made a change in the media module to test it. And where is the media module? Because I found there was an issue this morning with the resizing. So where is the media module change here? Media startup. Okay. And it's documented here. Okay, good. So what I did in this module is that I moved some of the hard-coded values and settings inside the app settings. So example is that before we had, you see, so it's still there, it was called sizes, now it's called default sizes. So this array contains the list, so for the media module, which uses image sharp, which is resizing images, so this array defines the list of approved or allowed values that you can pass in the width and height parameters of a URL of an image. And if you try to resize an image which is not part of these values, then it won't resize it. Okay, that's to prevent DDoSing websites by generating as many images as the user would. So which is bad. And so as part of this PR, I decided not to hard-code it in the code, but to make it configurable. Which means now you see here, this is the default sizes, and in the constructor, well, in the startup of this module, we are loading, so we are injecting the shell configuration, which is a high configuration instance for the current tenant, and we say get the section orchard.media, and then so this is under Orchard Core, then the section Orchard Media. We'll look for a value named supported size, and then we'll bind it to an array of integers. If it's not defined, we use the default ones. But now you can define it in the settings, in the site settings. And then we also define the max browser cache days and max cache days, like public and private cache values. And this can, you see, before it was also hard-coded, now there is a default value, but you can redefine it in the site settings. And this is what fixed it also, you see, because binary search, when it doesn't find something, doesn't return you -1, but it returns you minus the index where it should have been between the two values it found. So it's negative and not just -1 if it doesn't find. So it was broken, which means you could actually use any value in the URLs, and now it will really enforce that. And this is what I found this morning. I have Gitter, I can have Gitter, and if I click on the link I shared, the link I didn't share, so Jasmine, can you share the link I created this morning, because actually I shared it with you in the private chat.
I know there's another one on orchardcore.fr. Yes.
Oh, you gave me a, okay. So this one. So I created the site this morning because I want to try it. And you see the images, they are not correctly sized. Not only that, but if you look at the source for this file, it's not resized at all, even with the parameters. And I saw that because I wanted to test the feature. And actually, the numbers we use to resize are not part of these values, which means they are not resized. So we need to change the theme to use these values. So it doesn't matter if the CSS itself is not exactly these values. You just generate a file that has the same ratio or close values. Okay, so you can generate a file with close values to the ones you want, and then in your CSS you define the exact size you want. Or you can also use the, what's the name, picture tag, I can't remember, the image tag with different sources for different media size, so it will download exactly the one it needs. So I fixed it as part of that. But that's also a good example on how to change the settings. And you see here it's explained how to set that in the app settings. So Antoine, you shared the link and you said something which I didn't understand. Okay, it's already in the dev.
Yes.
Oh, these are the defaults. Okay, and now there should be the documentation here for the configuration. Okay, so that's good. And these values should match what we have in the default in the documentation. But it's good to know that now you can change it pertinent, or at least in environment variables, or globally for everything. Super nice.
So do we have to change the agency theme?
Yes. Yes, in the liquid files where, let me check. So if I go to Orchard Core, SRC themes, the agency, and maybe the other ones we need to check also what we use. And if I look at views, and no, it must be in the template that we generate here for the landing page. There must be here some width, something. You see here resize URL 400, 300. These are wrong. We need to change these numbers. That's it. To use like 480 and whatever is close to 300, like 480, 480, or 480, 480, because if it's limited in height, then if we do 240, it will be stretched out to stretched up, whatever, and that's bad. So it's better to use a square of 480, 480 in this case. Okay. And I'm sure the mod stretch is good. Because I don't want it to be stretched to 480 to a cube to a square. I don't know if stretch does that, but it should be just bounded by 480, 480. So I think the default mode should work. So if we don't set the mode, it should work. That, and you will see there are many things here. You see, I can find it 3 times here with maybe not correct values. So that we need to check that, and the other themes, because now it's fixed, so we'll see issues. So very important PR, and again, you can set in the app settings file, you can set in the environment variables, and also from command line. So even if you have something in the environment variable or the settings files, then you can set a command line value to override that if you want to test one instance with a specific value. Also, the app settings files that are generated pertinent will contain can contain custom values and can be saved. So example, the database provider and the connection string, they are stored in the app settings files now. They are just part of the configuration of the app, but in the tenants specific files. So that fixed, I think, like five bugs. It fixes 5 different bugs from different requirements. Super nice PR. This one, multiple alias names with the same index, there was a bug. So if yeah, there was a bug and a conflict in the dictionary that is fixed. I don't remember how to repro it, but he also added unit test, which is cool. Fixes application view path. From Jean-Thierry, yes, apparently the view start file could not be loaded if we deployed an app using NuGet packages. Fixing Docker image generation, and you will see there are like too many commits on the dev branch for fixing Docker and scripts. The issue being that the Docker images and things are only generated if they are merged on master or dev. So I had to do these commits in the dev branch and not on a PR, because otherwise it will not generate the Docker images. Many issues. First, this one was so the main issue was that if you use the Windows Docker image, your site was already set up with the SAS recipe. And this is because the functional test will run with the SAS recipe, and we will use the same build folder to deploy it on Docker, so it will already have an app data and a user and everything. Second issue is that was a warning, like if you do -p and the Docker password here, the CLI for Docker will warn you that it's not safe to do that. So the safer way is to use password std in, which will get its input from the standard input. And to do that, you do echo the password, you pipe it to the command line. So this parameter will load it from the input of the command line, the standard input, like it was typed by a keyboard. Okay, so that fixed warning. Same thing in the Avayor one with some changes later. I also clean the app data once the functional tests are done to prevent any leaking from the app data folder, and then I did it better, and then I did it better, and then again, not this thing, this is different, but then again better here, and now it's beautiful. Okay, now it works. What is that? Oh, semicolon, and then it's perfect. This one is that when you will display the list of terms in a taxonomy and these terms had a custom part, a dynamic custom part, it will fail finding this shape, ContentPart.TermAdmin. The idea is that when the taxonomy terms are displayed, we use a display type of term-admin. It's like summary admin, but just with the name, very light version, and we can customize it if we need this way. And there was, so the goal of this view is not to render any fields and anything. So in this case, it's doing a no op, but I commented what it could be if you wanted something to be displayed instead. So you can copy paste that and create an alternate for like your type, like ContentPart-yourCustomPart.TermAdmin, and then you could define how it looks like in the admin for a specific content part. So done Docker. Option to collapse parts. By the way, so we tried during the last triage to run Docker images, and it didn't work on my machine on Windows because I was you need to map the ports, but if you map the port after the name of the Docker image, it doesn't work. You need to map it before. That's the issue. Option to collapse parts. So this PR introduces a new settings. A new set of settings and also a new API that will let you remove the name of the part by opting into this option. Like in GraphQL, when you will display a blog post, you will have an auto-route part section, and under that the path. With that option, the path appears at the top level. so it's not inside an authorized part section. And then this is done via an API if you need to enforce it for specific parts, like the authorized part. And you can also do it by settings. So now there is a new setting for each content type, for each content part, where you can say collapse its fields and properties at the top level. Then should filter multiple indexes with same alias, just I assume refactoring of a previous one. Also unit test. Added validation for AliasPart test, duplicate Aliases. What is that? Fix on the fix on the fix. Who is that? I committed it. What is that? Oh no, it's validating the unicity of the alias. So now it will validate that you will actually, ensure that your alias is unique when you type it, like the authorized path. This one deleted the web.config file just because there was a warning during the publication of the AutoTMS web project, and after talking to the guys who work on the Alias integration, they say we don't need to have a web config in the project, because when we publish, it will be generated with the default values as we defined it. And also they suggested that this to be added, so in case you use Alias, it will opt in for the in-process mode, which is faster than the out-of-prod mode. The out-of-prod is just a redirection from Alias to Kestrel. In-process means .NET Core will run inside the Alias process. So that's it for the dev branch. Then there are PRs and changes going on. References, Chantery fixing the unnecessary references, or where it's missing a reference to resources, I think. Manage culture admin page, I don't know what it is. We'll soon have a PR issue.
I made a PR.
Okay,
yeah.
Check. Path-based decision tree, working on fixing issues with path-based, meaning URLs that should not be absolute, but ensure it's using the tenant's prefix and also the IS virtual path. So we'll have to look into that. There are changes all the time, so I'm not sure when to merge it. I also need to understand that. What else? Nothing here. And this one I've been working on for too long. When I say too long, it's like I'm in my third day on that, and it still doesn't work. I'm doing progress, but then when I think it works, then it doesn't work. I'll show you. Let's see, do we have demos then? If we don't, I can show you that, the issues behind. No demos, we have time. Let's take 10 minutes to look at this thing I'm working on. The worst on that is that, well, it doesn't make things any better or doesn't change anything, just make it, so the issue is, if I go on issues, let's talk about beta 3. I worked on this issue because I was picking one by one of the issues and working on that. So this one I was working on is it's not tagged with beta 3? Or do I not see it here? Not this one. It's not tagged with beta 3. This is this one. Maybe that's a good thing is not tagged with beta 3 because it's hard to replicate, so we might ship beta 3 without that, but I'm kind of sad. So in Orchard 1 there was the same thread with like 2,000 and something comments about database locking while you try to create content items concurrently. Here it's not trying to create content items concurrently, but this is the same effect, or maybe this is, no, it's workflow, it's not a content item, but it's kind of the same thing. So the idea is that there is a lock at a database level, which means two transactions try to create a record in a table which is locked by SQL Server, and then there at some point is a deadlock and the connection timeout and the request is cancelled. So it does that with the workflow module because apparently there is a long-running workflow or long-running request while it's trying to display something on a table which is locked, and then it doesn't work. So it gets into locking contention here. Well, deadlocks at the database level. And in Orchard 1 it was fixed by using the no-lock keyword in the queries, in most of the queries that were doing that, which just tells when you do a select that even if the table is locked, you don't care, just read the uncommitted data. Don't wait for the transaction to be committed to be able to read the data which is in the table. So the select won't lock themselves on, won't be locked on the reads. But here I wanted to understand what was happening, and Jérôme noticed that there was an issue with the linear block ID generator list range method. I don't see the commit, and yes, there is no commit here because it was in the same transaction. So the idea is that this thing, the linear block ID generator, is a component to generate unique IDs for all the content items we create or all documents we create. To generate a unique ID, it leases a range of ID from database, saying, "Hey database, can I take 20 IDs for me?" And then the next guy who needs 20 IDs, you'll get the 20 next ones. And we do that to just get unique IDs on database, but not getting a query on every ID we need, but getting a query for a range of IDs we can lease. So once this is called, we have like 20 IDs just for this store, for this instance of server. And then we can increment that until we don't have any more IDs, and then we need to lease a new range, and so on. And this lease is part of a session, of a request. So when you create a request, this query or queries, because you might need multiple ranges in the same request, will be enlisted in the same transaction as the only transaction for the session. And this is the issue because we might lease we might lock the table that contains all the leases across all the requests, and even inside a specific request you can lock yourself in some cases. So I try to change SQL to not do it as part of the same transaction as the current request, but a specific transaction which is super small and committed as soon as we can, because it's fine to have the lock as long as the lock is small, and in this case now it will be. And what I did on SQL is I did so many unit tests also to check all these things, like different servers that access the same table and can get lease without conflicting. So yeah, I did many things to change that, and I did many tests. So I think now it's fixed. We won't get any lock anymore with the changes I've done, but I face other issues now. I can't set up Orchard. All my unit tests on SQL pass, but I can't set up Orchard, so I have to understand what's missing in the test coverage that Orchard doesn't want to set up. I have an ID conflict, so I have a unit test that should fix it, but it passes where it passes in SQLite, but Orchard hasn't set up with SQLite, so I have to check. Also, what's changed here is that in the case of SQLite, it's not leasing using a list table. It's doing everything memory, because the assumption is that SQLite should only be accessed with one server, because even SQLite doesn't support concurrent accesses. So it's useless to try to handle multiple servers with a SQLite database. We should not do that. If you have multiple servers, like replicated system, you should use a service like PostgreSQL, SQL Server, or MySQL, not SQLite. So this should be also faster for SQLite and more safe. So I'm still working on fixing that in ES-SQL. Questions? Also, not about SQL, about anything here. If I go back on the issues for beta 3, so this one I might not get blocked on beta 3 because it's a very specific use case that will lock the things. But milestone beta 3, let's see the other one. Publish errors when you specify a self-contained. Oh yeah, that's because there is a version conflict issue. We need to fix that. It's easy. Antoine found an issue that we can't use localization when using NuGet packages. There is progress on that. 24 comments. Jean-Thierry is looking at it also. Media model not displayed when the editor is maximized. Apparently someone assigned Matthias, or he assigned himself. He did. Good job. 6 minutes. Yeah, this one, when you're on maximize editor, the pop-up window is not visible. It's hidden. This one missing reference, and that's part of a bigger PR that's missing more references on resource management. Should be easy. This one is it related also with SQL? I don't remember. I think so. I can't remember the details. Crap. Oh yes, there is already. That's typical from the bug I'm fixing right now. Already an open res reader associated with this command, because it was reusing the same transaction, well, the same connection, and creating multiple transactions. At some point it will say, oh, there is already a transaction on this connection, and SQLite doesn't have this issue. But yeah, now it should be solved with my fixes. We'll test that, but that's the idea. That's sad. That unauthorized exception or accession, we still haven't been able to repro it. Layer, this one is not very important. I still need to look at it, but nobody will find it. And fix model don't correctly use path based relative full path. There is already a PR with that, so it should be fixed. So again soon, but until everything is fixed, we can't ship beta 3. Topics, demos, questions? Did I miss anything? No new sites, I think. We saw the one from Jasmine last week. Nope, that's it. Okay, good. Well, if there is no more questions, then we'll end the meeting. Good. Thanks everyone. See you on Thursday or next Tuesday. Bye bye.